What's up guys, I'm Joe and this is a Bradford Pergola. All right, so we're here on site in Sherwood on a pergola project that we are just wrapping up. We've got the structure in and working on doing this polycarbonate roof material that is an option you can do to cover the top to prevent water from coming in and all that. So that gives us a cover. But this thing is pretty good size. This is a 16 by almost 40 foot long pergola. And so when you're talking about a pergola, so when we say 16 by 40, that's referring to the top. So that top is 16 foot wide by 40 foot long. And then now when you're looking at that for the actual structure, that's your top portion. And then so on each side you have an overhang of roughly a foot. So whenever you're planning your post, so with this, the top being 16 by 40, that makes our footprint from post to post is 14 feet wide, and then from end to end is 38 feet wide. So you want to take that in consideration when you're sizing it, to be that the actual dimension is going to refer to the top portion, and then your post position on the ground is going to be 2 feet in, or one on each side. So 2 foot less of the width and 2 feet less of the length when you're planning that out. So let's take a look at some of the components of this particular cedar pergola. Okay, so starting off with our structure and the post. This is a 6x6 cedar post. Now this concrete was existing, so it's got an anchor plate or a base plate that attaches to the concrete, and 99% of the time that's the way that you would do it. You typically wouldn't set, like say this was ground, you typically wouldn't set the cedar post down into the ground with a footing. Typically we're doing most of them on an existing concrete, or you would pour a concrete pier where your posts are going to go, and then still do the same setup where you're attaching a base plate and then building up from there with your posts. So these are real nice base plate. They're a powder coated black, and they've got these decorative structural screws that is super strong, but also gives it a nice look, and then ties in with the same structural screws that with the black powder coated up here on our beams and joists. So from there though, you can see, so this our main beam here is a 2x8 cedar beam, and those go on both sides of these posts. So that's once we got the post in, that's our next structural piece, is running these 2x8 beams. So these run long ways here on both sides, and then above that is a 2x6 joist that runs from beam to beam. Then that runs beam to beam, and then from there we'll do a 2x4, essentially kind of a lattice work. Now to point out here, these are about 2.5 feet apart from each other, and they are that width in order to accommodate the roof panels that we're putting on. If you don't do a roof panel, then typically we would do an additional 2x4 in between here to just make a little bit more of a blockage of the sun and all that. But with the roof panels, these are spaced a little bit further to accommodate those sheets, and then the roof panel has a little bit of tint on it as well, so it blocks some of that sun. We can kind of see what that looks like on this end. So you can see you getting kind of this first row in, it is it's a polycarbonate, like plastic material. It's corrugated, but it's got a, so this is actually a gray, so there's a little bit of a tint on it. It's not completely clear, so it still allows some openness and sun to shine through, but that tint helps cut down the heat and the glare coming through there. And then also that covers it to where the water will run off. Like this particular one, we've pitched it to run back here toward the driveway and run off any water runoff. Okay, so when we're planning these and designing them and even looking at maybe your own space, you want to look at what kind of clearance and height that you want to have for the pergola, but then also what clearance you have on any adjacent houses or structures. So here, I mean, it's pretty much a blank canvas because this garage the elevation of the garage has very high eaves. It's like 10 feet or so. And then the same way on this end of the house, we had plenty of height there. So we weren't really constrained by the height of any house structures or eaves here, but that is a common thing, especially when you're doing it like maybe off a back patio or something, to first kind of check what you have from ground level up to the eaves of your house. Because with that, as we talked, we've got this 2x8, so you got 8 inches here, and then you got a 6 inches plus another 2 inches. So from the top of our 2x4 to the bottom of our beam is going to be 16 inches at minimum that you need clearance. Now even here too, you need a little bit of working room between that 2x4 and the eave, and then here that roof panel is going to add a couple inches too. So with that being said, to kind of consider and kind of calculate how much clearance you're going to have under your beam, if your eaves are lower, you're going to need around 18 to 20 inches from the bottom of your eave to where the bottom of your beam is going to be. So that can play into making sure you got enough height clearance underneath your eaves and where that beam's going to be. Also, sometimes a common thing is like here, I believe they plan to come and run some electrical and have like ceiling fans and things like that in this area. So with a ceiling fan, the rule of thumb is you want to have from ground level to the fan blades a minimum of 7 feet. So depending on how far your fan comes down, then you want to just make sure that from where you're going to be mounting your fan, and then the length of the fan from the fan blades down to the ground, that you have 7 feet or more. So like here, for example, we did this from the ground level to our beam is a little over 8 feet. It's like 8 feet 4 inches. And just because of the size and scale of this, we were able to go that tall. Now we also didn't want to go too tall where it looked funny of like, hey, it's really long post and really high roof. But here was that 8 feet 4 inches was a good scale, but also gives them good clearance underneath here. And then again, when you have lower eaves, you just want to take that into consideration of your calculations of how much you're going to have underneath your beams, and then how much you're going to have underneath your joist to make sure that's going to work for your space. All right, for the roof materials, this is like we said, a polycarbonate roof panel. And here, with it being 16 feet, we're doing 2 layers because those panels come in a 12-foot length. So we're doing a partial piece, and then we'll have another piece that'll cover the rest. And then on the top of those 2x4s, there is a special made corrugated piece that screws down to that 2x4 and then allows us to set the panels into those and then screw those down and secure them. Hey, thanks for checking out this video with us today. I hope that was helpful. Make sure and like this video, it helps us out a ton, and subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this.